Hello everyone, this is B. Harper from supermarcy.com and welcome back to another review. Today I will be looking at 2011's Thor, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, Natalie Portman, Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård. And it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. First off the bat, allow me to say this. Thor is perhaps one of the more... I hesitate to say accurate, because when you're talking about mythology and accuracy, it is kind of an oxymoron, considering mythology is that. It is a figment of a collective imagination. It is a story. So it gets my goat whenever somebody says, that myth is not historically accurate, that's not the way it was told. But, how do you know it was told that way? Please, tell me. So, going back on track, Thor is perhaps the closest we will get to a traditional Norse mythological tale. What I really love about what Kenneth Branagh has done is that he has just gone completely old school with the characters of Thor and all the denizens of Asgard. It really is such a classic story, and considering that Branagh himself is of the Shakespearean kin, if you will, he has a very good approach of when it comes to approaching tales that are old as time, to steal a phrase from Beauty and the Beast. But it's true. It feels like it is something that you can open up a book of mythological stories and read. You have the classic hero character who becomes like far too big for his britches, he does something stupid and he's punished for it. And the only way that he can redeem himself is to learn more about how the world works and get a sense of being humble. And that is exactly what the character of Thor goes through. He's not a bad guy, and he's about to ascend to the throne of Asgard, but he's just too much of a strutting, cock robin. So he gets himself into trouble, and Odin, his father, punishes him for his brashness, and throughout the movie, he's starting to learn more about himself. He's starting to pick himself up from the ground and start to see the world from a different angle. And in the case of Thor, it's like mixing the ancient world of mythology, with the contemporary science of this day and age. So this is when he meets Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman. And may I say at the bat, I love Natalie Portman as an actress, don't get me wrong, but I feel that the character of Jane Foster isn't nearly given as much love and attention as the other women in Marvel movies go. You have Pepper Potts, you have Betty Ross, you have Black Widow. You still got yourself a really great variety of strong female characters. Oh, and Maria Hill. Love Maria Hill. So with Jane Foster, here's the thing. Thor is a god, alright? And gods, they have certain expectations when it comes to, how they perceive humanity. And even though Thor starts to see the world with new eyes and he comes to respect Jane and everything, I didn't really sense any major romantic chemistry between him and Portman. If anything, I would have preferred it if they were a little more platonic, because, yes, I get it, people do love a love story, but you've got to have the chemistry between the actors to do it, right? So I felt that the romantic subplot in this movie was rushed, and it was kind of superfluous, but I digress. Generally speaking, I did like Thor. I thought it was a really great time in the movies, and it just goes to show that Chris Hemsworth isn't afraid of making a fool of himself. Thor, when he gets beamed down to Earth as part of his punishment, he just endures all of these horrors that Earth has to offer. First things first, he finds himself, being run over by Kat Dennings' character in a car, and he gets whisked away to hospital. He tries to escape because this is all so unfamiliar and frightening to him, and he gets stabbed in the butt by some sort of sedative, and he gets run over by the truck again by Kat Dennings, and he's just having the worst time ever. It actually reminds me of Captain Kirk's terrible day in the first Star Trek reboot with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. Just when Kirk gets beamed down on that planet, everything goes wrong, so Thor is a really good sort of a screwball / action comedy type of thing, but remiss I would be if I did not bring up Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston. Loki has become a fan favourite, let's face it, and for very good reason. Tom Hiddleston has a sense of menace and a sense of regality and like a sense of charm to him as well. It's another case of a perfect character, perfect casting, because truth be told, and this is, of course this is going to sound absolutely typical of me, I had not really heard of Tom Hiddleston up until Thor. I probably heard his name being thrown around and I may have seen his face, but it wasn't until I saw him as Loki, the son of Lufrey, a frost giant, that I just thought, wow, who is this guy? And how much magic he brings into like what is essentially a 2D sort of a villain role is amazing. And once again, that comes down to Kenneth Branagh's direction and his understanding of how to make a classical tale of betrayal, family, redemption, and everything like that. And when I think about it, Thor, in a sense, is like a Shakespearean play. Now, it's not necessarily a tragedy, it's not necessarily a comedy, and it's not necessarily a comedy of errors, but all of those aspects play into it. And I feel it works in the film's favour, considering who the director is. Generally speaking, the talent involved is talented. I can't refute anybody. Like I said, the only issue I truly had was between the romantic relationship between Thor and Jane, but other than that, I was fine with it. Especially Stellan Skarsgård as Sylvig, who is Jane Foster and Kat Dennings' colleague. There's one scene in which Thor and Skarsgård's character go out and get hammered at the bar. Like, Thor being who he is, he's a god, okay? He still has the constitution of a god, so he's able just to keep on knocking him back and knocking him back and knocking him back. And Skarsgård is determined to drink this man under the table, and he just ends up just getting pissed. And the next time we see him, Thor is carrying Sylvig, Skarsgård, over his shoulder, and Skarsgård's like... Physical comedy like that is just amazing, and I love it when a movie doesn't take itself too seriously. And considering half, if not all, comic book films tend to favour a more darker edge, it is delightful to see a comic book film that doesn't stray away from its comic book roots, but doesn't insult the audience's intelligence, and isn't afraid to make fun of itself. In terms of weakness, nothing really comes to mind that works as a serious detriment to this film, other than the romantic angle. As I said before, it wasn't necessary. It felt more tacked on than anything else, and a movie shouldn't feel the need to do that. I would have been more comfortable if throughout the sequels that Thor and Jane built up their relationship. It would have felt a lot more natural. It would have been fine to have had the spark there, but it didn't have to go like full-blown to a full-on romantic kiss at the end and blah blah blah. It didn't need that. Well, I thought it didn't need that. So yeah, that was my thoughts on Thor. Oh, and might I say, this is a very grand-looking film, especially the sequences taking place in Asgard. I don't think I've seen Asgard represented half so well in cinema as what we saw in Thor. It's glowing, it's opulent, it's huge. Imagine walking into a place like that and just feasting your eyes on all these beautiful sights and just the luxury, and it just goes beyond your imagination. I love that this film has imagination. I love the fact that it isn't afraid to play with all the wonderful and wacky things that us in our childhoods came up with. Like when we were building new worlds and playing and everything, we used to come up with some pretty insane stuff. So seeing that sort of thing portrayed on the screen and so brightly and without any shame, it is so refreshing. Oh, and another thing, here's something that I kind of felt was tacked on, but I kind of understood the function, was Loki's use of the robot. What was that for again? I understood it was to, wipe out humans and to, put Thor in his place, but Loki is a god himself. He is half frost giant, so he has abilities of his own. And a lot of his power comes from his brain, his smarts. You know, he's the god of mischief, of cunning, and, you know, sort of going behind your back and manipulating you. And he does a bit of that in the movie, and I was so glad to see it, especially the sequence between him and Thor in the prison cell. Just the way he just plays with Thor. He's like a cat gently batting a little unknowing mouse with his paws, and just the way he presents himself. It's a great scene, but once again, the robot felt out of place considering Loki's strengths as a character. So, yeah, I understood, but I didn't really catch on to it as much as I would have liked. But hey, that's just me. All right. So, as I said, that was my thoughts on Thor. It's a good film. Don't get me wrong. It's got its mishaps, and some things don't really make sense, or they make sense but they feel tacked on. But generally speaking, it's a damn good time. So I would have to rank it at around about 3.5 out of 5. Same thing with as I did with Iron Man 2. It's a great time, and I can't fault it for its imagination and its fun. But, you know, that was Thor's first time out, and for a first time on the big screen, it's a decent job. Alright guys, that's me for today, and I shall see you again with Captain America, the First Avenger. Yeah. See you later guys.